Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for joining me here at the Fee Show, as we are also joined by Wicked, Alliance's top laner, after that much-needed win. So let's break it down. Starting at the beginning, picks and bans. How did that go for you guys?
Well, we just wanted to take picks that we knew they couldn't counter pick early, so we started going for top lane picks early now, because top lane doesn't have that much of an impact anymore. And then we can just late pick bot lane and mid lane, which are the most important roles right now, in my opinion. So that's what we did.
Now, you were laning against LeBlanc. First of all, did you expect it? And how is that lane for you? I mean, how is it laning versus LeBlanc as a Trundle?
It was fine laning it because I've seen Sora and Source played a lot in solo queue and we scrimmed against them. And I played 20 games of LeBlanc and my Smurf. So I knew the matchup very well and knew what she could do and how much damage she had. So I knew it was comfortable playing it, I would say.
The Fee Show touched on it already, that did you expect it? Because it's something we see a lot when Fnatic played what was the EG before, when SOAS plays you, that it seems to be going the special routes. How surprised were you?
I wasn't very surprised because Swords can play anything pretty much. Like when we scrimmed against them, they played a lot of random champions that I wouldn't want to mention because that would be unfair towards them. But yeah, they play a lot of different champions and Swords is good in playing new champions.
Now, if you look at this game, normally you guys do really well in the laning phase and then you kind of go into the mid game and things fall apart. This game though, versus Fnatic, did you guys expect to get the early lead? And also, how did you actually get it?
So, in the first weeks in our scrims, we only practiced our early game. We just wanted to win from early game, which didn't work out at all. And then the last week, we have actually lost a lot of early games where we started winning mid games and doing dragons and stuff like that. So we've been focusing a lot of that, and that just seems to work out.
So as you mentioned, those dragons, that is so essential to have good shot calling, to go for those objectives at the right times. Who is doing the shot calling right now? How is that going?
I would say that in this game, all of us were just screaming like animals, so that worked out for us, and we didn't really have a shot caller.
Okay, we talk about Alliance, we talk about going up and down all the time. Week 1, you lose everything. Week 2, you win everything. Week 3, you lose everything. Why are you guys playing so up and down?
I feel like we're just inconsistent on play in general. Like sometimes we're on our game, we shot call a lot, and then sometimes we're kind of silent. So this game doesn't really prove much because it was probably our best game, and we were fully on top of our game. And I don't know if Fnatic were or not, but we might not be that next week or next game. So we just need to get more consistent.
I agree on that one. I think everyone agrees on it. Now I want to talk a bit more personal about you, because every time you hear Wicked or you read about Wicked on the forums, everyone is always saying he has a small champion pool, he doesn't play, the right things, he keeps falling back on Malphite and so on. What do you think about your own champion pool?
I think my champion pool is fine. Like I play whatever I think is the best in the situation. Where like there's multiple heroes that can be good. Like sometimes you can have 4 heroes that are good, but I'll just pick the one I'm most comfortable on. Where there's no point picking something I'm not as comfortable on.
Talk to me a little bit about Alliance in general. How have you guys dealt with going from resetting goals, like being that super hyped team in the beginning, then starting to lose, and now where do you see you guys ending up?
Well, we're just gonna keep going and see how far we can get up. But like, the most important thing is our mood never really fell down. We always kept being happy about it, being good teammates, and just trying to work out what can we do. For example, this week we started eating breakfast together at 12 every day. Then go to the store together and do stuff together outside the game, which seems to help a lot.
All right, and then you beat Fnatic. They lost to Gambit last week. Do you feel like Fnatic is in a slump right now, or what's going on?
I don't think Fnatic is in a slump. Like they got beaten by Gambit, who is one of the best teams in Europe right now, and then we beat them while having our best game of the entire LCS so far. So like, I don't think they're in a slump now.
No, Fnatic, another loss here for them, and a team that has also maybe fallen a little bit off their pedestal is ROC. They'll be going up against Millennium in the next game of the day. What do you guys think is going to happen in that match? Maybe Martin first.
I mean, I'm looking for Rocket to simply bounce back. I think they're still a very strong team. Just, a bit of poor week 3. They admitted actually on Twitter that they didn't play too well and they didn't practice enough. They stepped this up, so I expect to see them come back to the old Rocket form.
I think Rocket is incredibly good, and like we've been scrimming them a lot this week, and they seem very consistent. And I think they're going to win that game.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Fantastic win from you guys here. And now we're going to send it over to Joe in a quick shot.
Thank you very much, Shox. It is time for Game 2 as the newly crowned Intel Extreme Masters Sao Paulo champions Millennium return to the LCS against a ROC team who struggled last week. Now, Millennium were having troubles before they went on their trip to Brazil, and they did show some of those same weaknesses while they were out there too. Closing out games, to be frank, is not coming naturally to them just yet. On the plus side, though, they did end their 5-game losing streak at the end of week 2, where they beat SK Gaming.
Yeah, very interestingly, though, Millennium Millennium has only beaten SK this split, meaning that they've lost to every other team in the league and have yet to play the Super Hot Crew. They played SK twice, beaten them twice. I think Millennium, the one thing I do want to talk about is that they were here in the studio last week. They watched all of the games. They were discussing what they were seeing. And I want to see how they interpret Rocket's strength and what they're going to do against this team that I think there's a lot of hype and energy behind.
Well, Rocket's loss to Fnatic was a nail-biter of the game that went back and forth. And to be honest, that is all on the edge of our seats. And that second loss is, I guess, better forgotten, to be fair. SK Gaming just ripped them to pieces.
Yeah, SK completely did. And I think when you take a step back and think of Rocket holistically, you think of them as a fantastic team. There's a lot of hype, there's a lot of excitement. You feel like they can win every single game, but they actually aren't. And I think part of the reason for that is, as a team, they don't necessarily make mistakes, but they are fairly linear in their playstyle. They always challenge for dragons, they always attempt to invade on blues. I think if you're a smart team, you can read them and understand it, and you can anticipate their actions. For example, they've taken 22 dragons. It's the second highest in the EU LCS. You know they're going to do it, ward it up, prepare to challenge, and maybe you can beat them in a team fight.
A challenge for most of those dragons. We'll see how Millennium do. Interestingly enough, Aranea said in the interview earlier that actually their early game is very strong. So we'll see how that one all develops. But for now, let's check out the two starting lineups. On the blue side, we've got Millennium with Kevin up top, Aranea in the jungle, Kerp in the mid lane, Creaton and J-Reet, the AD carry and support.
And of course, on the red side, it is Rocket. Zazus up top, Jankos in the jungle, Overpower in the mid lane. AD carry is Saliva, and your support is going to be Vanda.
So let's, as we get towards Champion Select, talk through what are we going to be seeing banned out from this one. We've seen Aranea playing the likes of Pantheon recently. Didn't really work out for him, but the win that they picked up to get rid of that horrible losing streak that we're on, Aranea played an amazing Elise. I'm expecting that to be banned out.
I definitely think so. I still feel like Elise is probably the strongest of junglers. She's got great utility, works in basically every single team comp, and has as much, if not more, damage than the likes of a Pantheon. I also think that Aranea's Lee Sin is also very strong. And I find planning for picks and bans in this particular matchup is more difficult than the previous game of Fnatic Alliance. We've seen Annie banned out 5 times against Millennium. We've seen Rocket losing Kassadin 6 times, in fact. And I think with the exception of those obvious bans, the Annie, the Kassadin, Elise, and Lee Sin, I have no idea where else they're going to go, because both of these teams are not afraid to try new champions. They're not afraid to play new picks.
Well, I think one of the interesting things could be in this one that if you look back to Fnatic versus Rocket, they targeted Saliva in particular. They said, if we can get him out of his comfort zone, he's played an absolute ton of Caitlyn so far. And it seemed to rock the boat a little bit by Rocket. We'll see if that works out this time, though.
I think it's definitely an option. What we've seen from a number of teams is they focus on one particular player in picks and bans. And against Rocket, you really have to pick wisely, because they've got a lot of depth in all of their players. Vanda in particular is a man who can do amazing things on multiple supports. I actually think, I'm gonna go out on a limb, I actually think he's the strongest Thresh in the EU LCS right now. I feel like he's had more impact on that champion than anybody else has. And I think that also has to be something Millennium need to consider. You know, do they want to get rid of the playmaking ability that Saliva and Vanda have if, you know, they're scared of that one?
Do you go towards Overpower, man, who has honestly been so very dominant with the likes of the Kale, for example, and we can touch on that one. The other problem is that you've got with the likes of Overpower is that he pulls out stuff like Mordekaiser.
So the one thing I do want to touch on just before we get into picks and bans is that at Sao Paulo, Kerp played Fizz, a phenomenal Fizz, and we've seen Kevin running Shen in the top lane. So I really want to keep those options available because Millennium could run it. I don't think it'll be ban-worthy.
So look at Millennium's first bans. Caitlyn straight in towards Saliva. Overpowers Kale, gonna be banned out here straight away. On the other side, Annie taken away from Jerry. They don't want Kerp on Yasuo as well. Second AD carrier ban actually coming in there for Millennium as well. So they are aiming towards Saliva as Fnatic did. Final ban out for Rock'em was Kassadin. That left Elise open, and Millennium have picked it up. That went pretty much exactly as we expected.
Both of these teams, I think, maybe predicted that this was the action that was going to go forward because those bans came in very quickly.
Yeah.
We touched on how impactful J-Ree is on Annie. It was taken away from him. We know that Kassadin cannot be let slip through. It's actually been targeted against Rocket multiple times. But knowing Kerr plays those assassins, Rocket couldn't take the risk of it being locked in, even if they could get their hands on that Elise. With Pantheon, Wukong, and Lee Sin available, I want to see what Jankos decides to play, because I think he can play all three very, very well, and we'll see what Rocket prioritize. Thresh could even be a possibility here for Vander.
And as we say that, it is going to be Thresh and Pantheon by the looks of things here from the first round of picks of Roccat. Now, two strong champions, the Pantheon in particular. We did see their win against the Super Hot Crew was the first time that Jankos actually brought that one to the table. Not played it actually since then, but still very strong champion.
I also want to highlight the fact that Overpower has played it multiple times.
Champion, yeah.
He's played it twice as well, you know, so we'll see whether or not this Pantheon lands up in Jankos' hands or whether it lands in Overpower's hands, and it makes Millennium's decision-making a little bit more difficult here. They need to be more aware of the option of that coming into place. We'll see how they decide to lock in their mid laner.
Well, Gragas has also been a choice that Overpower's gone for a couple of times, but let's talk about the Lulu pickup here. J-Re actually played it in their last loss against Roccat in the support role.
So the Lulu being locked in, I'm going to throw an oddball out here. There is the potential of it being a mid lane Lulu. It is something that has been discussed and is happening in scrims right now in EU. I believe the number 2 and number 3 players in Korea are running mid lane, high CDR Lichbane Lulu as a mid laner. And since the changes in the 2014 season, the slow on a Glitter Lance and the speed up on a Whimsy scales with AP. We've seen Kevin run tank Gragas in the top lane, and he has defended it vehemently. He likes it. He thinks it works. So it is a possibility. Just keep that in mind as we see the rest of these picks and bans happening.
And that's the interesting thing at this point, that Roccat as well have a dynamic first couple of picks where that Pantheon could slot into the mid lane role or into the jungle role. However, that might just be kind of refuted here as Ziggs is being hovered over by Roccat. Also the Jinx for Celiver. Now, he has played that Jinx, in fact, in their last game, the loss against SK Gaming.
I think it's a difficult decision to make right now, and you see they opt to go for the tank instead. I wonder if Roccat are thinking similarly to what I am, in that it might be a top lane Gragas, in which case Renekton should be able to make his life very difficult early on if he gets very aggressive and gets into his face. Seeing the current hover from Millennia makes me think otherwise it's most likely going to be J-Re on that Lulu. But so far Roccat have got good versatility. They've got fairly good initiation, they've got good range on, you know, Pantheon, they've got Ziggs as well, and if they do go for the Jinx, they've got a lot of global damage that can come down fairly quickly.
Yeah, and that Renekton, just to touch on that one, we've seen it played a couple of times by Zazas. Got great stats on it as well. 2-0-6 in their last win over Millennium, and also 5-1-5 in the win against the Super Hot Crew. So feeling confident on that one. Are we going to see Shyvana coming in here for Kevin? We've seen him recently bringing out Shen a couple of times into the fray. The Tristana is locked in there for Creatine in that AD carry role. Jerry's got his hands off the keyboard and mouse, and it will be Shyvana here for Millennium.
So Shyvana locked in is most likely going to be having in a position to try and duel the Renekton. You know, going to be in a position where he wants to maybe go for a Blade of the Ruined King and just try and trade. I think Kevin will want to play the split push game right now. You can see the stats on Shyvana, not necessarily the strongest, but the rest of the composition from Millennium can do very well if they put themselves in a 1 and 4 split. You have Elise, super mobile, you've got Wild Growth to save somebody, Buster Shot to get rid of them, as well as Explosive Shot. So I like the 1-4 split push type style that Millennium could play with the champions they've currently got locked in. It's just going to be quite difficult to control waves when you've got Ziggs, who's going to have that global super mega inferno bomb, whatever it is, to blow people up.
Are they going to be going for Ezreal? Funnily enough, Creatine's been one of the only players that's really been settled on that Ezreal. Already played it in a couple of games. In fact, their first 2 games finished 10-0-7 on the first game, with him showing that Ezreal still is a possibility. High mobility still in for that one, and it will be that locked in here for Celiver. So with that Ezreal here, along with the Thresh for Vander in the bottom, then you can see that Ezreal got a 40% win rate actually at this point.
It's going to be an interesting duo setup right now. Tristana Lulu's a lane that we have not seen in the LCS. It's 2 champions that are not particularly popular. Millennium actually faced off against Tristana's at IEM Sao Paulo. I believe 7 Wars ran Tristana, and the first item they rushed was a static Shiv. I'm not expecting Creatine to go for that. I think he's more likely going to go for Blade of the Ruined King into some attack damage. We'll see whether or not he agrees. But the early levels of sort of 1, 2, and 3, I feel like this Tristana Lulu lane can both push very quickly and has a lot of early damage thanks to the explosive shot if Creatine goes for it, meaning Celiver and Vander need to play a little defensively in the opening minutes of the game.
What do we think to the top lane here from this one then? Shyvana coming in. We've seen, I wanted to say relatively little Shyvana recently, but to be honest, since the changes, we've seen hardly any Shyvana in that top lane.
I think the Shyvana pick for Kevin is going to signal a play style decision. I don't feel like this is something that he wants for the lane. Shyvana versus Renekton, I actually think that whoever gets their items first is most likely going to get ahead. I feel like it's a bit of a skill matchup. Renekton should have a little bit of advantage in the super early levels. But once they hit 6, it's just going to be a farm fest. You know, the tanks up top really struggling against one another.
Yeah, doing some interesting picks in this one as well. Really interested to see how that Tristana comes out. Creatine obviously really interested in getting that one. But as the game gets underway, we'll see which side you guys gave your thumbs up to over on lolesports.com. And it's another big margin, I can tell you. 84% going for ROC. Not quite the 90% that were wrong last time around for Fnatic, but still a big number.
And nobody is giving the IEM Sao Paulo victory any credit. I mean, 16% of the vote behind Millennium when you consider they've just come off the back of a major LAN victory in Brazil. We'll see whether or not that confidence helps them out because they've already got unique champions, something that they may have learned in Brazil. They may have learned from Seven Wars, I believe it was, and said, hey, Tristana, sleeper OP. Only time will tell.
Only time will tell. We are into game Millennium versus ROC, and we said it at the start of the game, Millennium are in a little bit of a rut. It almost sounds strange to say that they're coming off the win at Intel Extreme Masters. They did actually end up winning their final game of the LCS the last time we saw them over in week 2. And just to point some interesting starts out here, Overpower running the Ghost Flash on Ziggs.
Yeah, definitely going super old school on this mid lane, and I actually think it's a smart decision, considering that he's going to get run down by Shyvana, Elise, Gragas, and the immense range of Tristana. The additional utility of Ghost is going to be very powerful in extended team fights. Also think about the play style of Aranea. He heavily ganks mid lane for Kerp. Every time we've seen him play, when we've seen Kerp on Yasuo and Aranea was playing Lee Sin, he would repeatedly gank that mid lane. So I think this is a smart decision from Overpower saying, well, I know my opponent, I'm expecting him to be in my face.
Jerry having a little bit of a laugh here as we see the first wards going down. Slightly different approach to the trinkets as we saw in our last encounter where Fnatic actually ran 2 sweepers right at the very start of the game to counter that level 1. See that Jankos actually starting top side of the map will have some help from Xaxus. On the other side though, Aranea is going to be kicking off with his red buff as well, with Kevin just defending that entrance over on towards the blue buff.
I really like both of these teams' compositions. I feel that they've both got good wave clear, they've both got siege and counter siege potential. I also like the fact that you've got 2 very aggressive junglers with Elise and Pantheon. I almost expect the mid lane matchup to be determined by the junglers. I think whoever is able to get Gragas or Ziggs ahead early could determine the outfights of the early challenges. When they go into like dragon fights, the poke that comes out of both of those champions is going to be very, very impactful and important to keep our eyes on.
This bottom lane, 2 AD carries that we're just not used to seeing, certainly not against each other, I think, so far. Ezreal versus Tristana with the Thresh and Lulu supports in there. We can see that early damage being traded across the board there.
One thing I like that Vander's done, he's picked himself up a Relic Shield very early on, gives pretty good statistics, and I actually wonder if it's not to help counter-push the wave that Millennium's going to be shoving up. Creatine with his explosive shot, and Lulu with Glitzalons, if she uses it on the wave, could force ROC to be under the tower very early. And just by having that Relic Shield, you allow yourself to push out a little quicker, instantly get rid of a minion, and obviously share the gold between Celebi and Vander. We're just going to keep in mind those Relic Shield procs may put Celebi a little behind on CS.
Yeah, which he'll pretty much game back anyway from Vander doing that. Meanwhile, though, we do see Aranea coming in towards his top lane. Actually, Xaxus going straight in there. The cocoon has landed onto him, but the flash has already been used, but they've not got the damage there to finish off Xaxus. He did really well.
They've got
going
Jerry
into him. There's the hook as well, and here comes Pantheon down that bottom lane. Have they got the damage to finish him off? They jump in, Jerry super low. The Ignite burns off, though, and they don't finish him off, and now Creatine turning things around. There's no help for them, but Millennium avoid being first blooded in the bottom lane.
Flash for Jankos and the flash for Saliver was used in that engagement. They really wanted to make something happen. We talked about the aggressive junglers, and you see both Aranea and Jankos trying to make things happen. They've got flashes down from their opponents. If a tower dive were to come in, look for the shield from Pantheon. He has to block a turret shot.
He has to be the one to block this one. He does block the first one, gets polymorph. Oh, takes a lantern out there. I was worried a second there for Jankos. Meanwhile, Overpower in the mid lane does get himself off a great satchel that saved his life there.
Unbelievable starts across the map. Aranea and Jankos are deciding that ganks and trying to get their lanes ahead is more important. Every single person has survived these. However, summoner spells are down. Millennium are a little bit ahead because they have more flashes available to them. Now Kevin is trading with Xaxus.
Trading with Xaxus in that top lane. Both of them Doran shield starts. We'll see if anything really happens. Interestingly enough, in this 1v1, which we just have come to not expect. However, Aranea is on the top side of the map, but he does have Jankos coming around from this one. He'll spot that Aranea's there, pings onto the top of him. Xaxus are already started to back away, but Aranea's hanging around.
Yeah, I think Aranea, if he gets the help of Kevin, may actually get some good damage down. Jankos just sidesteps that cocoon, and at the end of the day, Jankos and Aranea, they're not in the same rhythm. You know, you tend to see some of the junglers at this level counter-ganking their opponents if you understand the pathing they're going to go for. And this time round, it's slightly different routes. When you see Aranea may get caught by Jankos here, is in Spider form, could repel the stun. We'll see how he times it.
A little bit risky there. It's a big amount of damage onto him, but as you said, repel was available if he needed to get out of there. Kerp actually came across to give him the cover as well. And got a faceful from Jankos. So, this mid lane in terms of CS, actually, Overpower is leading on that one. Something we come to expect anyway from these Zigs. But he's up against Kerp, who is a fantastic Gragas player.
Yeah, and we'll see how, once again, the ganks work out. Because remember that Aranea ganked mid first. Aranea was able to force the flash from Overpower on that attempt, but they didn't have the damage just yet. Now with the double Doran's rings and some more mana regen, Kerp should be able to counter-push the wave from Ziggs, and he's keeping up fairly evenly on the CS. We'll probably see it stick to the same numbers as this game progresses.
Now, bottom lane there, Creatin was alone for quite a while. He's actually ahead in the creep score at this point. 39 to 34, but they've both got waves to be working on. Meanwhile, Kerp here onto the outer turret for ROC, and he's actually flashed in here, throws down the big barrel, body slam lands, first blood coming in from Kerp. How the hell he does that with a trackball, I've got no idea. Aranea there repelling over the wall, onto the race, save. Brilliant from Millennium.
I don't understand what Jankos was doing. He actually used his stun on Aranea to prevent Aranea getting into the fight on Overpower. If that stun had been used on Kerp under the tower, they may have been able to pick up a reply kill. But advantage Millennium, they managed to tower dive, pick up a kill very early on. That's a good play from Vanda, but I don't know if they want to pick this fight. Look for the polymorph from Jerry. Decides not to use it in that particular engage.
Very interesting start to this one. See that the top lane is actually starting to get a couple of items in as Aranea going very low here. That was very close from him, almost going down to the golems on the top. That's not something you want to do in this level of play.
I must admit though, Arenea's been doing fairly well at counter jungling. Every time that Millennium have one of these sieges or trades, he's gone in for the wolf camp or the double golem camp, and he has gotten away with it till now, almost going down. Very quickly, I want to touch on the fact that J-Ree has gone for the Ancient Coin very quickly, very early on. We tend to see those GP10 items being secured later on after the Sightstone. I think that's been the trend by most of the supports. Doran's item into Sightstone into GP10. And this time around, both Rocket and Millennium getting the GP10s. I almost wonder if it's anticipation of a longer game. Anticipation that this is going to get drawn out, and we'll see if it does come to be.
Well, Millennium have been honest about the point that they are absolutely not in good shape when it comes to closing out games here, that they need more time on that one, and that may just be right on that front. We just actually saw the big bomb coming out from Overpower just to clear that lane as he went back to do some shopping from this one, and he's going to be coming back in with a Spirit Stone. Interesting.
I'm not quite sure what Overpower is planning on doing with that Spirit Stone. We'll see as this game plays out, because the Spirit Stone isn't going to add damage to lane minions. It works on monsters. things in the jungle. So maybe if Overpower is going to start trying to, counter jungle and assist Jankos in some movements around the map, that could work. But I have no idea about that right now. We're just going to see how it plays out.
We're talking about the guy that brought Mordekaiser in. I feel like I say that every time when we look at Overpower, because there always seems to be a little bit of a question mark over the approach that he uses. I'm quite happy for him to see something coming out, but look at Aranea.
Yeah, he's going to come in from behind. If the cocoon lands, ZXC is in trouble.
Oh, it landed, but on the minion for them, but they still got good damage here. There's a dragon coming out from Kevin. Have they got the amount of damage that they need to finish off Aranea underneath the turret? Kevin actually tanking this one. ZXC is still alive. Aranea almost goes down to the ignite there. He's going to try and escape, but Ziggs is coming up. There's the Grand Skyfall. Ziggs doesn't have his ultimate off cooldown right now, so they can't finish that off. Jankos couldn't get in position. Aranea and Kevin going right down to the wire in terms of health, and look at ZXC. He's quite happy. Crocodile under his tower survived it.
That was a great play. He anticipated the repel to land in his face, and he managed to stun Aranea up. So Aranea took 2 additional turret hits that he was not banking on. ZXC gets away by outplaying Kevin and Aranea perfectly in that situation. And it's great jungle presence from Aranea to constantly gank. It is rewarding them. He got the flash down, the ignite down, almost got the kill, but just great counterplay from ZXC to survive that engagement.
So bottom lane, as we saw that kill, I saw that kill coming in early. That's obviously a lie because everyone in the bottom lane is 0-0-0 at this point. Both AD carries actually still only on those Doran's blades, so no one wanting to give up any kind of advantage and go home from this one as Fana takes a big hit from Creatine and J-Ree, but they're quite happy to sit and farm. The junglers have been concentrating elsewhere up till now.
So Creatine is quite far behind Celavar right now. If you add Vanda's 14 CS, assuming that the Relic Shield hits have actually landed, it means Celavar is securing much more gold. It has equated to about 450, 500 right now. Creatine playing a new champion Tristana. The question is, how much has he practiced and how experienced is he at dealing with the explosive shots splash damage around the minion wave? If Rocket can keep Millennium on the defensive and now shove this wave to the tower, it makes it even more difficult CSing with that explosive shot because it is going to damage the minions and make it so the turret actually kills the minions in one shot as opposed to you are. So we'll see how this works out for them. Overpower just farming up. Spirit of the Spectral Wraith is his first item. It's for Jankos.
Jankos getting caught out here. Aranea actually has to repel. He's going to have the range there to get over onto the Wraiths. And you mentioned it, Spirit of the Spectral Wraith for Overpower actually manages to steal away the Wraiths, doing blasts of damage there to Aranea and to Kerp as well. Very interesting itemization there from Overpower as well.
And I'm going to say he managed to steal it because of his jungle item that he's playing. Because he's got that in there, he's got some lifesteal as well. I think what this is going to allow Overpower to do is just sit in lane and push. I wonder if they're going to use Overpower to potentially counter the split push of Millennium while allowing Overpower to just farm up the jungling and try, generate this gold lead. It's an interesting tactic, and we're willing to see how it pans out. I didn't see if Overpower stole that camp, but again, more poke, more damage on Kerp.
Yeah, it's certainly been an annoyance here. Is Overpower on that Ziggs, staying in there at the back and able to clear out those waves so incredibly quickly. Bang on even is the CS there in that bottom lane. The top lane, mid lane. Top lane is 97 to 94 as well here. We can see the workings of the Sunfire Cave coming out from Kevin. ZXC's actually gone for the Spectre's Cowl and that Chain Vest to kind of deal with both edges of the sword once Aranea comes up there with Elise as well.
Yeah, and I think right now the fact that Kevin's got that big health advantage over ZXC is going to allow him to outtrade in these 1v1 situations. He seemed to be in control of the lane, and ZXC once again is under threat. Aranea is sitting around looking for a gank. We can see that Kerp is even moving his way up from this mid lane. They're going to go for another tower dive, I think. Here comes Aranea on ZXC.
Yeah, they feel that they can't do it with 2 men. They're going to try it with the third as Kerp comes into this one. ZXC spots him coming in now, but the damage is going to be too high for him. ZXC actually managing to escape for now, but you have to feel this is just a matter of time. Great long-range cocoon. Kevin's going to get the kill here. It's going to take him a while because Renekton can get that health back, but he does get it in the end. That's 2-0 Millennium. But that time that they've delayed has allowed Rocket to go for the Dragon.
Yeah, the amount of times ZXC's kept Millennium busy has just opened the door for Rocket. They've got so much damage, and with 2 jungler items sitting on on their side is just going to allow them to shred that dragon so quickly. They keep themselves even in gold despite being 2 kills down, and I think that's the most impactful to keep our eye on. I also want to touch that Celivar has had his completed Bloodthirster for a little while, and as we talked about, Creatin is going for that Blade of the Rune King as his first item, but advantage to Celivar as far as damage and sustain is concerned right now.
Millennium are stealing away jungle buffs though. Aranea has just picked up the red. We can see that Kevin is on the top side here, just taking out the golems. He's not going to go quite as low as Aranea did earlier on. He'll take that away. All the merrier for him. Kurt, meanwhile, will be receiving the blue buff from Millennium's side of things. Over on the other side of the map though, ROC will give their blue over to Overpower.
And once again, 15 minutes in, we've seen 2 kills, we've seen no real pushes for towers. The fact that both of the supports went for an early GP10, I think these teams are signaling they want to go to the late game. They want to push this till later stages. This is the first time we've really seen Vander and Celivar getting very deep, and it's because they've got the support of Jankos. It's going to be difficult to kill Creatin with his rocket jump and with wild growth from behind. So we'll see how much burst they've actually got, because a hook from Vander is going to start it. They're going to catch Jerry.
Oh, there is Jerry getting hooked in through the minions and throw everything his way. He puts wild growth down, but I don't think it's enough to save him here. The Ignite going to tick through, and Jankos picks up the kill.
Yeah, though I think it was the last tick of the spell the Elder Lizard worked out. Now Jankos is looking for Creatin. They get the first tower, and Rocket have got to back away. Aranea, with the help of Kurt, may catch it. They've caught Jankos!
Oh, they've caught Jankos. He flashed in for it with the cocoon. Jankos flashes away as well. There's a repel. Here comes Kurt from the bottom side of the barrel. Knocks 3 back. Kurt gets himself another one. They take down Celivar as well. What a row down from Kurt. And that, absolutely brilliant. It might cost him this mid tower though.
Overpower's got a lot of free time to work in it, and we'll see he should take it if he sticks. Decides to back away, and that's the first time that grabbing that lantern actually probably cost Jankos his life. He got pulled in with the rest of his team, ate a massive explosive cask in the face, and that just bounced all of Rocket back down the lane, allowing Creatin to just get the last couple of hits and allow Millennium to pick the kill up. Aranea is trying to tank the tower, so he's going to need to back away. A little bit of life still in the minion wave. We'll see if they stick. Teams have been playing defensive when it comes to tower pushes, and this time around it looks like the minions plus Creatin will get it.
Yeah, Creatin there to finish that one off. That is a nice pickup here for Millennium. Brings us back to 1-1 in terms of turret kills, both of them down on the bottom lane. Meanwhile, Overpower continues to farm up there in the jungle. Obviously got that Chalice in there. You can see that the Brutalizer, that's the word I'm looking for, added in for Jankos as well now. I love it when a name just says,
just disappears.
No, I'm not coming.
It just disappears. It's actually the same build that we've seen from Shook in the previous game. Spirit of the Elder Lizard into Brutalizer, and I think it's something that's becoming the norm on jungle Pantheons as we're seeing them more. This is the 8th time that we've seen Pantheon in the jungle in the European LCS, and we tend to see players going for like the Warmogs as their next big item. Did you see that Jankos is sitting there in his lane? No red buff available. I actually wonder if Kevin stole that away or if it was Aranea. I missed it. They've caught out Overpower, and there's a lot of damage just from 2 barrels from Kirk.
But almost the same back from the turret in that one, and Overpower didn't use anything on that one. Kirk not got his flash available, doesn't have his Ignite available here as well. So he needs to be careful of any outside interference, which might come from that bottom lane. Celivar and Vander have both worked their way up from bottom towards the mid lane. We can see that Dragon heavily warded from both sides of this game at this stage as well. In fact, Jankos is there, and the entirety of Rocket outside of the top lane are hanging around that bottom side of the map. There's still 2 minutes to Dragon though.
I think look at the vision that Millennium have afforded themselves. I'm expecting Millennium to challenge for this next Dragon. And that they've got a ward in the blue buff for Rocket is going to tell them 100% where their opponents are. We've also seen Millennium rocking 3 of those sweeping lances. So we'll see how they make use of them. The cooldown's not available for either Aranea or Jerry as they've already been used. And with 1.5 minutes to go, we should most likely see Kevin moving down and probably Zazzy in reply as well.
The Athene's Unholy Grail was done for Overpower. Same over the other side for Kerp. With a needlessly large one added in there, yeah. Ooh. Well, they caught Jankos, might be more to the point from this one. But here comes Overpower from the side. Jankos gets that kill. Can he get away? Yes, he can. Kevin flashes over, but I don't know if he's going to be able to get it from this one. The damage coming out is too high. Celivar picks up the kill in the end. That's a double for Rocket. Positioning from Millennium has to be called into question there.
Yeah, I think a little bit of overconfidence. They had some decent wards, but look at the Rocket wards in all entrances to their jungler. Rocket were completely aware of where Millennium were coming into play, and you've seen Jankos sliding back and forth to actually avoid being caught out, so I think that's very good play from them. Now that they've got a little bit of an advantage, we'll see who's going to start off on the Dragon right now.
Oh, Kerp actually caught out Wild Growth going into that one, but Overpower down to less than half HP, but the hook and the play comes around. Oh, Jerry sidestepping the True Shot Barrage out of Celiva, and he will walk off. Well, that's a 1 for 0.
And we'll see how it affects the rest of this game, because with Kerp being down and 20 seconds on the Dragon, Rocket should have the advantage if they rush it very, very quickly. It doesn't seem to be the focus for their players right now, though, as Zazas is actually moving up to the top lane, and the rest of the team is just sort of hovering around in the lane. So maybe putting a little bit too much focus on the Dragon, considering all of the wards have timed out, and it's basically reset that situation.
Now, Overpower headed down here. Blue buff has spawned into it. Dragon is also live. This could be an incredibly tense period of this game. Tied on turrets, tied on kills. Almost 20 minutes into this game as the wards come out. Scans coming in there as well. Millennium in the better position of the two teams right now, but Rocket not far out of it. This is going to be so important for how this game shapes up in the next few minutes.
And remember the global reaction that Rocket could have. Grand Skyfall can come in, the Mega Inferno Bomb as well as True Shot Barrage. It's almost available. It's something that Rocket can try combo to steal this Dragon. Millennium have started, the bomb is coming down. They go for the fight instead.
But it's going to be taken there, Millennium. They pick up the Dragon. Can they get kills from it as well? Jankos going in towards Aranea, who goes low, has to repel out of things. And there is Creaton diving into the back. He's got the kill on Celiva. He's going to do a good job on the rest as well. Jankos did pick up one kill. He will fall straight after. The barrel will actually zone them out, but Creaton, he's still right in the middle. Overpower hammering away on him. Has he got enough damage? No, his bomb misses. And now it's Kevin that could be in trouble on the top side. He will speed off away. Zazas can't catch him. And what a tense fight in the end. The Dragon went to Millennium.
Yeah, Aranea was able to secure the Dragon for his team, and Rocket were a little too split. They had 3 members going in to start a fight, but it was into the center of the Millennium team. So unfortunately for them, they just got outnumbered and shut down. So, it did allow Millennium to win the fight, come out with the additional kills. Celiva is now trying to find Kerp out. That's a Skyfall!
Yeah, Skyfall coming in. The stun will go on to Kerp. Can they chase him down? They've got the hooks, they've got the follow-up here, and the bomb actually coming in from the mid lane in the end. Overpower secures that one. He's now sat at 2-1-2. Just a simple case of Kerp being too far up the lane.
Yeah, 6 kills to 6 gold is 1,000 different right now, as we do see Millennium with just a little bit of extra CS across their lanes. Overpower's doing very well with this sort of unorthodox spirit of the Spectral Wraith that he's picked up. He's got that spell vamp, and he's been sustaining fairly well, but to generate a 40 CS lead over Kerp, that is some very, very good numbers. In Millennium, we see Kevin split pushing the top lane. He's almost got that Blade of the Ruined King, playing that Shyvana like we talked about in Picks and Bans.
Rocket here, though, going to get that turret. 2-2 that is now. Mid lane from Rocket's side of things super low, though, so that could be a pretty instant reply for them. We are actually going to be seeing the static shift coming out next here for Creaton on that Tristana, which is kind of the build that they saw in Brazil, but he went shift first.
It's actually quite interesting, and I think it's good for a number of reasons. As Tristana with your immense range, you're always going to be moving multiple times, and I think it helps a wave clear as well. Get an auto attack down plus the static shift proc, and if the next shot is going to kill a minion, you're then going to have the explosive shot to shred the rest of them. So once again, very good for both sieging as well as for defending. And in the previous fight, Creaton went super brave. He rocket jumped in to get a kill on Celiva and get the reset on his rocket jump to continue chasing onto Rocket. It worked out in that fight, but Creaton's going to be a little bit more hesitant as this game progresses.
Yeah, that's always the dangerous way to go. You feel you can secure the kill and jump straight back out. If that goes wrong for you, though, you're in the middle of the team with no cooldown to escape. But we are 22 minutes, let's call it 23 into this one. We're tied on turrets. The gold is 1,000. It's not a massive lead that Rocket have here. However, they have been in the past. When they have a lead, they've been able to really push that lead out and been able to push objectives with that. Millennium have been a team that, to be honest, they've not been able to push the objective so well when they've had that lead.
That could be part of the reason where Tristana comes from. As she levels up, she gets to be the longest range champion in the game with her auto attacks. It allows you to attack turrets from a safer range. She's gone Blade of the Rune King, which means if Xaxus and Jankos go for a lot of HP, she can kill tanks. She's also fairly safe against tanks. Knock them away, and Rocket jump the opposite direction. You can stay very far back. So we'll see if this helps Millennium if they decide to start grouping up to Siege, because that seems to be the signal that we're seeing right now. Millennium all grouped, 4 members in the mid lane. Kevin is very close by. They might want to grab their last out of town from Rocket in this mid lane.
Well, it's about time. It's been up for... it's been so low for quite a while now as Aranea just headed up into the jungle. Actually, Scant running out of time there before he could finish off the ward. Jankos just going to try and push him back, and Aranea actually find himself caught out of position from this one. He's going to repel, which will bring him back on towards Jankos, but it's just a case of wrong time, wrong place there. Celeber picks up the kill, but will it be more than that? They're looking to capitalize on the fact that the jungler's down and there's no smite.
Yeah, Creatin is so far away, but we do see Kerb. He snuck himself almost around the side, has managed to catch Overpower a little bit. Explosive Cask hasn't been used. We need to look for a steal potential as Millennium go in.
Millennium going into this one. The Baron is low. They actually start to pull away from it. Overpower takes down the Gragas. They keep him going now as the True Shot Barrage comes across. And there is the Baron picked up by Rocket. Kevin going to go down in the end. Overpower catching him at the last second. And J-Re backs off. However, Creatin is in the enemy base right now. Creatin is having a go at the inhib turret.
Creatin's got himself on a turret. He's going to be forced away by Overpower's recall. He's got so much wave clear that he's going to be able to shove that one down. Rocket get Baron and 3 kills overall if you include Aranea. And this is going to accelerate them to a very powerful position right now. Yes, they lost an inner turret, but I think they'll be very happy with the amount of strength that they've gained from the statistics of that Baron.
Such an interesting game, this one, with both teams really wanting to get out of, I don't want to say a slump, because I think that's the wrong word to use here. Rocket have lost a couple of games. Millennium have, whilst the last one was technically a win, they've not been doing so well, and have only beaten SK up until now twice. That's where both of their wins come from. They've not beaten any other LCS team until this point. And right now, Rocket are the ones with a healthy lead. It's not a massive lead, though, by any means.
It's definitely not, and I think the potential for damage to come down from both that Shyvana and Tristana can be very, very impactful in clustered team fights. Having, Renekton and Pantheon that could both be controlled and actually basically taken out by that Shyvana-Tristana combo. I think Millennium may want to try force bigger team fights when they have a vision advantage. And we'll see how they decide to pan it out. This is a mid lane of support, securing the Dragon very, very quickly. And Overpower still, he's stuck to the Spirit of the Spectral Wraith. And we'll see how he continues to itemize from here.
Well, can't knock it up until this point. We are going to see the Grand Skyfall coming down into the top lane, and actually you'll get Jankos the grand sum of 3 minions there.
Yeah, nothing right now, but he does manage to at least force Kerp away from the tower. I think Millennium are a little nervous right now. Kerp has been split pushing fairly often. He's been trying to shove the waves down, pushing himself to the tower. He actually got killed when he was in the bottom lane about 5 or 10 minutes ago, if you recall. He manages to get away with his life this time around, but I would have expected it to have been Kevin the one that was doing that. This time around, Millennium a little bit disjointed, so we'll see how they regroup and gather themselves, because they are 5k gold down and they've got a couple minutes of Baron buff to burn through before they really want to look for an engage.
Yeah, I think the problem for Millennium as well is that they've actually got no real answer if whoever split pushing gets pushed away and a team fight kicks off, because none of them carrying teleport, none of them can move around the map quite like Jankos can, who will be the man to stop that one. We can already see that Rocket trying to make the impact on the enemy jungle. They're going to steal the blue buff away. That will go to Overpower just in time for that wave that was just a second ago pushed onto their inner turret. He's now pushing right back on them, and they're going to face some pressure on their own end.
Now we'll see how well Millennium can defend from this siege. The AoE damage from Gragas is going to be good, and I actually think that Creatin's Tristana will be very effective in this situation. The wave is already destroyed, and Rocket, wisely so, are playing this very, very defensively. Creatin, Celeber rather, has to get in quite close range with that Ezreal, and is the potential of being caught by a Cocoon, by Shyvana, as well as that Gragas explosive cross. Look at the big damage on Celeber already. That's just from one barrel.
Yeah, barrels come down. Creatin actually takes a bit of a blast, and that's something Overpower going in there, obviously That Spirit, the Spectral Wraith, gives you a little bit of cooldown as well, 10%, which with a Ziggs can never underestimate, really. Zazas here takes a big blast from Aranea at the side. That's half of his health gone down already. But look at this, Jankos, as we expected, he's going to be the one to push all on his own, can always join the fight later with that Grand Skyfall available.
Yeah, and we've actually seen how effective it can be for for Rocket rather. I remember against Fnatic, a fight in this very similar area went in favor of Rocket thanks to that Grand Skyfall. That was a flash cocoon from Aranea that didn't catch anyone out, and that means there's no summoner spell now for Aranea if he's the victim of a Threshold or something similar.
And there is Jankos going in to that middle inner turret. Kevin coming around, but he's already lost half of its health. Meanwhile, Millennium trying their best to hold on to this middle tower as well, which has been constantly pushed by the other four men. There was Kurt's ultimate. It's not done anything for them, and that will be the turret going down. Aranea takes a big amount of damage as well, and actually, that will be Celiver finishing that one off. So let's see how this one works out, because they're going to rotate to middle now, sure.
Yeah, at this point in time, Millennium, knowing that they've lost all of their HP, needed to back away. I think Kerp tried to catch somebody out, and unfortunately, his explosive cost just didn't knock Rocket towards him. So, you know, the gambit didn't pay off. And as far as initiation is concerned, I think it's a lot stronger for Rocket here. They've got the hook that can set it up. They've also got Pantheon and Renekton, who I think are... I prefer them in an engagement potential to a Shyvana and an Elise, purely because of the disruption that they can cause. There's a lot of stuns, there's a lot more AoE. Yes, you know, Shyvana's going to do a lot, but you can just sidestep, Arcane Shift away, put a minefield down, and it makes it very difficult for that dragon to get in your face if you are Millennium.
A couple of big items added in there for Rocket actually on that last trip home. Last Whisper for Celiver. There was the Aegis picked up by Vander on Thresh, the Void Staff for Ziggs, and actually Pantheon really starting to ramp up his tankiness a bit more as well with that Spectre's Cowl.
And with the tankiness that Aranea has built up going towards that Randuin's, he's got no magic penetration with the exception of those Sorcerer's Boots. We see those jungle Elises that do well in the early game, going for like a Haunting guys first. And the reason I highlight it, I feel like if Aranea gets a little bit more tanky, then they may actually let Kevin play that split push game. You can see that now Kerp is pushing top, Kevin's moving bottom, and they're going to rely on this Lulu ultimate plus Aranea Elise to be the front line to buy time for Tristana to get auto attacks down. And we'll see how committed Millennium are to the sort of 1-3-1. I think it'll default to one member split pushing and a four-man Millennium defending.
Well, for the immediate future, Baron is coming up in less than 1 minute's time. Kevin is down on the bottom side. He has no way to join the team if he's not there once this Baron actually does get started off. The buffs coming up perfectly as well for that encounter with half a minute now until the Baron spawns in. The Dragon comes up in 1 minute's time as well. And if Rocket can, or if either team can actually chain those two together, that's a considerable chunk of gold in this one. Obviously, we're sat at 6,000 the lead for Rocket at this point. They've started to push the waves past that halfway point. They've got actually a couple of wards down Millennium on the top side of their own jungle, so Rocket still have time to clear things out here. Millennium going to see it for the most part at the very start.
I think Rocket can bait the Baron right now much better than Millennium will be able to respond. Due to the vision that Rocket has already generated, Millennium have to play a little bit risky to come in, either eating Ziggs bombs or potential engage. Rocket actually, I thought they were going to use Baron to pull Millennium towards them. Rocket just deciding, you know what, we're strong enough to start a fight. I mean, look at Celiver. He's leading the charge here. Millennium are a little bit out of position, and they are actually forced away. Rocket, not afraid of Millennium at all. They're basically saying, come on, fight us.
Bullying them out of the way there, to be honest. And we saw the True Shot Barrage being used to push the wave down middle. Millennium come back into the mid wave and say, nope, you're not pushing us out just yet. The mines come in. Bit of damage onto Kevin, but Rocket hold firm on that position there on the Baron. Millennium have, as far as I can see, no vision at all on that Baron area right now, which means they need to move.
They've caught Jankos.
They've caught Jankos, but have they got the damage here? He turns back around, Jankos falling low, but there is a Lantern coming in. Big attack coming in from the side as well. Aranea focused down. Wild Growth wasn't enough to actually keep him alive, and now they continue to chase through. Here comes the Grand Skyfall. They got the stun onto Crit, and that was cleared up by the Mikhail's Crucible, and Overpower continues to push in, gets the kill there onto Creatine, and now they're chasing the rest down. Zazas can kill Kerp out of this one. Body Slam will get him at least away for now as they chasing Kevin around and around the blue buff. Jankos comes in from the side, slams down on him. That's 3 men down now for Millennium. Gragas still alive on the top. He's pretty much the only one that can stop Baron now.
Yeah, there's no explosive cast going. He's going to be up soon. I don't know if he's going to be able to go for this one. There's not a lot of vision here from Millennium. From Rocket, rather. They can't see him sticking around. Millennium know that there's no one in the bush. He's actually recalling. Rocket grabbed the second Baron of the game, and you cannot give Vander Thresh. Kerp is going to go jump on Silver.
Oh, going up to Silver, but he escapes that damage. He goes back off there into the Baron pit, throws out his True Shot Barrage. They know that Kerp is up there now somewhere, and this may well just be a death for Kerp. He's they're going to dodge around each other for a while, but honestly, you're not getting away once Overpower joins in there, and Kerp tried his best. It was a little bit strange to me that he waited around so long, then didn't go in. However, Jankos himself now getting caught out. Gets the stun down, flashes back over the wall, will walk away for free. I talked about Dragon and being able to chain them together. Actually, Millennium going to get that, which will offset at least a little bit of that gold, if they get it.
You say that Smite is available here from Jankos. He may try steal, not going to work out. I think Jankos is just going to walk away. The rest of the team is coming in. Wild Growth just to save Aranea. I think that was a smart choice, but I want to touch on the fact that Vander is just doing so phenomenal with his positioning on Thresh. When Jankos was caught out in the river, a cocoon landed, the rest of Millennium collapsed on him. Jankos got pulled out by the Dark Passage because Vander was psychologically aware of his positioning. Rocket have now got a free tower, completely uncontested by Millennium. And once again, when Celiver was caught out, Vander throws out another perfect Lantern. Rocket, they're not stopping. Millennium haven't responded yet.
Yeah, why? Why stop right now? They can take this turret. They will, in fact, take the turret before they back away. They didn't really take damage from that one either. The problem that they've got is the bottom and top turrets are actually, are actually quite far pushed up. We're going to see the True Shot Barrage thrown in there by Celiver just to help clear and push that bottom wave a little bit further back. But Rocket realize they're going to have to back away from this one, which is not always a bad thing because they're all sat on decent amounts of gold and they're going to be doing a bit of shopping while they're there.
Rocket are so good at realizing what objectives they can take when their opponents either make a mistake or are caught out of position. They've taken a Baron this game after getting a single kill onto Millennium. They've realized Millennium were out of position and grabbed 2 towers, completely uncontested. If you think back to how Rocket played against Fnatic, Fnatic went for a kill in the top lane against Xaxus, and the rest of Rocket instantly responded with 2 turrets in the middle lane on the inner turret, then the inhibitor, and got a kill on Pekka. I think as a team, Rocket's reactionary decision-making is probably superior to any other teams. And Jat actually said a very similar thing when he wrote an article about the Fnatic Rocket match.
Which you should definitely check out, by the way, over on lolesports.com. Fantastic article that Jat wrote there. I just want to point out that as Overpower just went back, 4,700 gold he had, picking up that Zhonya's Hourglass in one go. He's now got that along with the Rabadon's Deathcap, Void Staff of Fiends, Spirit of the Spectral Wraith from earlier on. He is at full item build right now, and I'm wondering if he's going to be selling anything on that front from earlier on. He is on form at this point, 455 CS, which you can expect from a champion like Ziggs that is going to be clearing things out very fast. He's been using his ultimate multiple times during this game to clear things out as well, but if we look at how that gold has now developed before that last Baron fight and the kills that came from it, the gold actually was pretty level still, around about 6k, but it's now taken a massive jump.
Yeah, very big. And I wonder if Overpower has actually looked at the high CS records and decided he wants his name on the fastest to 500, because it's definitely something that our statisticians will have to be verifying. Right now, Rocket, realizing how strong they are with Baron, with the immense gold lead, and the fact that it's equated into items, they're just going to challenge on this inhibitor. Millennium can't fight. They cannot pick the spot. They've caught Aranea!
They've caught Aranea. Wild Growth goes on to him, but will it be enough to save him? Box went down a tad too late there from Rocket, but they don't care. They've taken that inhibitor. The top wave is actually pushing halfway down there on the Millennium side of the map, so they're going to clear that one out, push it right back onto the turret, and do a similar thing with Overpower. So strong right now, the amount of damage that he's able to put down so quickly, you can't really stand on those turrets.
No, you can't. And yes, Creatine has now hit a point where he's very scary on this Tristana, got an Infinity Edge, got that static shiv. I think it's taken too long for Tristana to hit this point. Now they've got Kerp. They decide not to go in on this particular engagement, but if another hook from Vander connects, that's going to be another kill. Vander's Thresh, we talked about how good it is in the pregame, and he's really showing up in this match.
I think one problem that Creatine actually has here, although he's got the range building up, that if one if one bomb actually lands onto him, it's half of his health gone instantly, and he can't afford to go down first in this one, because without that Tristana, Millennium have no way to win this.
Yeah, very little indeed. With 2 Banshees Veils on the side of Roccat, they're going to at least mitigate some of the barrels, maybe dodge a Cocoon or 2, something that's going to play into their favor. Overpower just basically 2 shots that blue buff. The rest of Roccat still staying grouped up on this middle lane. Now the Super Minions are in the base of Millennium. This is the time to go or no go. We'll see whether or not Roccat decide to tower dive. There's the big bomb. This may signal the engage.
Yeah, a lot of damage coming in. Kirk going to get low as well. Kevin is at half HP, and Roccat here not really looking for the kills. They wanted to force him away. Creatine was the man that actually defended there. He did all the damage over onto his opposite number, Celiver, and Roccat decided to back off. 1.5 minutes until Baron comes up once again. Wouldn't surprise me to see Roccat waiting for that one to come in. There's another 2,000 gold to spend, by the way, on Overpower when he goes home.
Believe it or not, I feel like Creatine could potentially turn a team fight. If Roccat engage poorly, if Roccat engage in, 1 by 1, or they get caught a little bit out of position, the amount of damage that a late game Tristana can deal, who is level 18 at max range with that IE, I think is very, very high. So Roccat cannot afford to make a mistake. Part of the thing that's going to help Roccat avoid being caught out of position or avoid making a mistake is now that Riley's Crystal Scepter. Overpower sold the Spirit of the Spectral Wraith. He's now got, splash damage slow in conjunction with the Minefield and those bouncing bombs.
Not much more he can do with his build at this point, apart from get rid of those boots and see what else he can squeeze into that build. On the other side, we see Haunting Guys in there for Kurt, but he is, well, 2 items basically behind at this stage of the game. We see there Roccat just waiting it out. There's 18 seconds until Baron comes up. Realistically, Millennium can't even challenge for this next Baron.
They've got no vision. There's Super Minions pushing down their base. If I were Millennium, I would love to see an Oracle's Lens. Go for the blue trinket. You can scan ahead of time. You're not blindly face checking, and you're setting yourself up to potentially get in somewhere where you couldn't before. Roccat completely uncontested on this Baron. Nobody can respond, and they're going to pick this one up. This is the definition of free, although they did invest in wards and control and 13,000 gold lead to get it.
Yeah, I think the blue trinket would have only helped to watch Roccat finishing off Baron at that point, because Millennium weren't even thinking about leaving their base to go for that. But now, once again, they have to weather the storm. Creatine did great damage last time it happened. He's got that Infinity Edge now in there. He's working up to what looks like it will be a Banshee's Veil by the time he actually completes it. And as long as he's got vision there, he can safely attack from behind the wall. When I say safely, he has to be so careful that Vander doesn't have vision of him and hooks him.
Yeah, he does have his flash available as well as that rocket grab, so that's what we're looking. Xaxus has eaten 2 cocoons in a row, and look at that. 1 auto attack plus a little bit more is going to drop Xaxus' HP. With Blade of the Rune King and Infinity Edge, Tristana really can melt both tanks and squishies. I say that in the loosest of terms, as Jankos is close to 4,000 HP.
Yeah.
Roccat get in on the inhibitor, and they're looking for the fight.
And, well, the inhibitor goes down without really any problem. Jerry going to get hooked into this one. Here comes the fight. They're going to dive into it. Araneo low at the back. They go in and finally finish off Jerry. Celiver picks up that one, but it looks like Roccat are going to play it safely here. They're going to back away, probably go onto that top side. It's a 4v5 for a good 45 seconds right now. Will Millennium hold on? You have to feel that they can't afford to lose a second inhib if they want any chance of coming back.
Definitely not. With the amount of damage that Ziggs is putting out, there's a single bouncing bomb. If Millennium are forced into a position where they have to defend Nexus turrets from Super Minions, as well as that ranged poke from Roccat, it's going to be very, very difficult times. There is no J-Re. That's a flash, but they've got it!
Oh, they've got Curb. Flash on comes in. Curb going to be focused down here. Jankos picks up that one. Xaxus is at the back as well. Araneo got no chance to survive this one. Actually, funnily enough, he does with the repel and the flash away. Creatine, the only one that was really keeping them away from pushing back. But that's what Roccat came for. That's what they're going to leave with here. Inhibitor going down. Araneo comes back. He's got no escape mechanism this time around, and he will go down. And that is the inhib, number 2 of the game going down here for Roccat. They're so close to victory.
And Creatine actually did a very good job. The flash hook comes out from Vander, allowing him to get the kill on Curb, and then setting themselves up to grab the tower and the inhibitor. Creatine survives the engage, backs away, picks up a kill onto Jankos with all of that armor and HP, and only expended his flash. Now that is very important, because If Rocket repeat that battle in the bottom lane, going for the inner turret, then the inhib, there is no flash available from Creatin. He needs to rely on the fairly slow rocket jump to get himself to safety.
Saw that true shot barrage coming through, clipped Creatin, but didn't really do a lot to him. Millennium just, well, doing what the only thing that they can really do in this scenario, which is push all three lanes as far out as they possibly can, delay things for ROC. I hope that those two inhibitors are gonna be respawning in, but to be honest, they've only got that bottom inhib turret and the inhibitor left, plus the two Nexus turrets here. We still have Baron buff running. It's got less than a quarter left on it though, so again, I'm gonna just put it out there. We might see another Baron pickup before Rocket actually go to close this one.
And knowing Rocket's playstyle, I think that's actually a pretty accurate decision to make. Rocket, in week 2, they just demonstrated that they will not push for an objective or push for a fight unless they are very confident that it is the least risk to them as a team. Millennium are 100% aware there is no vision here from Rocket. We do see Zazas is a little bit behind. If some CC lands, the Mystic Shot connects.
They saw Kevin going in there, I think.
Yep.
I think Vander spotted Kevin going in, and that would have been such a great play out of Millennium if Kevin was there in time. As it works out, actually they're going to have to back away. Look at the minimap as well. There's super minions coming into the base itself. In fact, 2 of them in there. Creatin and Kevin backing away from that one. That's going to give the final inner turret of the game over to Rocket. It may well mean the final inhibitor turret of the game as well. Creatin's going to have to rejoin the team because they need him there. At the same time though, super minions are again entering the base from the mid lane. They're already pushed down from the top lane. They're being squeezed so hard right now, Millennium.
It's just a matter of time. Rocket are going to wait for the waves before they go in. We've already seen a flash hook from Vander working out. There's no flash available right now, but one death sentence is all Rocket needs. We do see that Creatin's doing the best he can to defend. The Mega Inferno Bomb comes down the Rocket. They're on the tower. Hook doesn't connect.
Creatin coming around. Oh, wow, Kevin. He's the tanky one in the team, and he's the one that's hardly got health left. Rocket going to take the final inhibitor turret of the game. Can they finish it off right here? They're going to take inhibitor number 3. They've got super minions coming in from the top lane, from the middle lane. They are in absolute control of this game right now. There is the middle inhibitor just respawning to slow them down a little bit. We've got Baron coming up in less than 2 minutes. I don't think that Rocket really need that one, but safety first again from this one. Are they going to wait on that?
Rocket just can continue sieging, throwing out those mystic shots and bouncing bombs, and even those hooks. Celiba's caught a little bit out of position, can get out clearly with his arcane shift if he needs to, but look at the damage from Creatin. If he gets 1 or 2 critical hits, he could drop Celiba down.
And he's going to be picking up lots of crits if you look at his build down there as well. Unfortunately for Celiba, you know, he's got that Banshee's Veil, which is going to stop a lot of that damage coming his way, but not that of Creatin, who's going to slice through him at this point. That last Whisper and the Infinity Edge added into all that crit chance and attack speed that he's got here. And it seems like Millennium, at least for now, have held off Rocket. We've got 1 minute until the next Baron comes up. Super minions have been cleared out from the top wave. They're coming back in from the middle, though, and I think Rocket are just going to try and push this one through slowly. Again, inhibitor respawn will only slow them down.
There is decent enough wave clear from Millennium. They're actually holding a lot of these super minions out of the base right now. You can see those supers in the middle and bottom that are going to get in here. Once they're knocking on the door of Millennium, Rocket's going to use that as the signal to go forward. The rest of Rocket are grouped together. Baron is up in 30 seconds. We'll see if they decide to push through the final push. I think they've got enough to do so. Flash is almost up for Vander as well. Most likely, a flash hook could seal the deal.
Well, the inhibitor down to less than half HP. Celiba hammering on that one. There's the dive in from Kevin. They're going for it here, Millennium. They're going to try and get back into this game, but they've just not got enough power. That is a big barrel, though, coming out from Kurt. But is it enough to actually keep them in? Creatin is low. Is he going to be finished off? Yes, from Celiba. The missile, actually, from the Arcane Shift, I think it was, that did it. And Rocket, with the AD carried down, are going to go straight into the base. They're going to finish off the Nexus. It's taken them 47 minutes. But they are going to do it, and they pick up their 2nd win of the season against Millennium. But not only that, they get back on the horse and get back to winning ways. A
very hard-fought victory. Millennium did well in the early game, but you just feel that Rocket, once they got going in the mid-game, they were unstoppable. That last fight almost got kills for Millennium against Rocket, but they were too far down. The goal differential was too high, and Curbs Gragas, he just couldn't pop them quickly enough.
And over across the board, such a great play. The AD carry is different to what we've used to being seeing. We see at least one of the Caitlyn, Jinx, Lucian combo in every game. This is the first time I think that we've seen two different AD carries on both sides of the scoreboard. The Ezreal from Selva, the Tristana, there we go, I'll remember their name in a second, coming out for Creatine, which honestly took so long to get going, as is the danger, I think, as well with that Tristana. At the end was hitting damn hard, but just not hard enough, early enough, I think, is the real problem for them there.
Yeah, Tristana's a champion that does well very early, but then takes a very long time to hit a power spike, whereas Ezreal, once he gets his Bloodthirst or his Trinity Force, he hits this massive power spike, and just in those mid-game fights, I think Tristana had little to no impact. By time Creatine was relevant, by the time his items were there to back up Tristana's range, they were too far behind, they were too far down, and you just have to give props to ROC once again, really demonstrating, I think, the crispest decision-making. They got a single kill into RNA at about 26, 27 minutes and went, go, Baron, and they managed to secure it.
Oh, that was it. That was the tipping point, I think we could safely say, in that game, because it was, up until that point, pretty damn level. ROC had a slight lead, but it was only 2,000 or 3,000 gold, if that, I think, at that point in the game. And bad positioning from RNA, costing the Baron. You have to wonder, ultimately, maybe the game.
RNA was caught a few times too many in that game. I think he ate too many hooks from Vander, which is great play by Vander, but also maybe a little bit of poor positioning on his part, especially in the opening, sort of the 15 minutes leading up to 30.
Yeah.
I also think that Overpower going for that Spirit of the Spectral Wraith was an interesting item choice, and I can't wait to actually ask him about it or talk to him at some point, because we haven't seen a Ziggs do that. He hit a lot of CS. He was at 500 around the 37 to 38 minute mark, and it showed once he hit 6 items at like 40 minutes. A little bit sooner than most, but great play by Overpower.
Yeah, actually sold it off in the end as well. And for me, Overpower continues to not really surprise in picks in this case, but surprises in how he plays. Again, finished 5-1-8, had 564 CS by the end of that game. Huge numbers for him, huge numbers for Rocket as well. I can't quite remember what the CS record was. It was something 500 and something.
I think 540 something. I think Candy Panda holds it.
541, apparently, I'm being told.
It sounds about right.
So he beat it.
I also want to question the picks and bans phase a little bit from Millennium. We see the Shyvana up top, which did well in lane against Xasus. It had Xasus on the back foot. There was a small CS lead, but it never equated to kills. It never equated to control. And in the team fights, let's be frank, there was a null factor from Shyvana. It didn't matter when Kevin jumped into fights. It didn't matter when he was knocking people around in Dragon form. So I have to think, what if that had been a different pick? What sort of impact could it have been if it was a Trundle? That you could have thrown down a pillar, maybe disrupt Rocket a little more? Like, I just feel like when you look at the later stages of that game, Kevin was a little irrelevant.
Well, guys, we are going to be taking a quick break here, but when we return, it's the Copenhagen Wolves taking on Gambit. Don't go anywhere.